Yes, for being here. I think with us we have our panelists, moderators, and speakers from today. Thank you so much. And we have prepared a revised joint statement, which I think Dato' Singwoon will, as Secretary General of MCA, will lead us, and then we'll go straight to questions also lah.
And the press will get a soft copy as well. Right?
Yes.
Okay, I think it's a good session. We have revised the initial joint statement, and this is the latest. Let me just read it out, and we have a soft copy for the media to help publish. We, the undersigned organizations, convened at INSAP Urban Renewal Public Policy Summit 2025, held at Wisma MCA Kuala Lumpur, to deliberate on the proposed Urban Renewal Act (URA) and its far-reaching implication for Malaysian society. Following today's discussion, the experts and the participants unequivocally reject the URA bill, highlighting the following recurring structural flaws. Number one, erosion of property rights. By lowering consent threshold to below 100%, the bill contravenes Article 13 of the Federal Constitution and allows minority owners to be overridden, forcing them to surrender property against their will. Second, excessive centralization of power. Ministerial discretion and federal executive committees hold sweeping authority, undermining state jurisdiction over land matters and reducing checks and balances. Third, developer-driven model. The bill tilts heavily towards developers, enabling them to initiate, gather consent, and influence valuation, sidelining owners and communities. Fourth, narrow demolition focus. The URA privileges demolition and rebuilding over alternatives such as regeneration, adaptive reuse, or revitalization, ignoring sustainable options and risking unnecessary displacement. Fifth, weak safeguards for vulnerable groups. Tenants, the elderly, disabled, and low-income households stand to lose homes, communities, and access to services without sufficient compensation, relocation support, or right of return. 6. Duplication and redundancy. Existing laws such as the Land Acquisition Act 1960 and the Town and Country Planning Act 1976 already provide frameworks for renewal. The URA instead creates duplication without resolving funding and governance gaps. As such, a more credible path forward must include, number one, owner-led models. Renewal should begin with property owners through their management corporations supported by independent professionals. Developers should only enter through transparent tender processes, ensuring owners secure the best deal. Number two, independent oversight. Redevelopment decisions must be subject to parliamentary scrutiny, independence tribunals, and professional verification rather than ministerial discretion. Number three, fair compensation. Compensation must go beyond one-to-one replacement units, reflecting the true redevelopment potential and including relocation, rental, and equity sharing mechanism. Number four, mandatory social safeguards. Social and traffic impact assessment must be embedded in law, not left to subsidiary regulations, and independently approved to ensure protection against over gentrification and heritage loss. Number five, stronger role for state and local governments. Renewal must align with the federal constitution's divisions of powers, empowering local authorities with adequate funding rather than re-centralizing control. We, therefore, call on the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, KPKT, the relevant Parliament Special Select Committees, federal and state authorities to withdraw the current URA bill, impose a moratorium on developer-led solicitation, and embark on genuine multi-stakeholder consultation. Reform should focus on strengthening existing frameworks, closing loopholes in the Land Acquisition Act, Strata Title Act, and relevant planning laws, while embedding constitutional safeguards for property owners and tenants alike. Malaysia's urban future must not be dictated by narrow commercial agendas. Renewal must serve the rakyat, preserve community bonds, protect vulnerable households, and create inclusive, livable city. Without these protections, the URA risks becoming not a tool of renewal, but of displacement and distrust. The INSAP Urban Affairs Policy Summit 2025 reaffirms that any legislation reshaping our cities must put people first, uphold constitutional rights, and ensure that urban development becomes a force for equity and sustainability, not coercion and division. Jointly released by MCA, INSAP, KLRA+SD, HBA, Perekabandar, G25 Malaysia, Pertama, and RISM, and last MIPFM. Okay, you got the soft copy. Open the floor for question. Kalau ada soalan.
Any questions?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen of the panel, at this point, because of all the listen to a whole day of witnesses that you have pointed out. So at this point, the minister have said that there will be some changes made to the URA based on all the feedback, and he's going to table it for second reading. So this particular call is, are you going to accept a revised version, or there must be a total throw out of the URA, even with revision done before the second reading comes out? What are we looking for?
Well, this is very clear to our joint statement, is to call off the bill. We do not need such bill. We already have existing one.
Right.
Just tighten up the loopholes.
In the existing bills.
Right.
Examples of the existing bills that we can use?
There, the Land Acquisition Act,
The
Existing laws, the Land Acquisition Act.
right, Town and
Land
Country
Acquisition
Planning Act.
The Town and Planning Act. Thank you.
And so, explain, sir. The points that you have pointed out will, YB, P. Kasiong, he will also raise all these points in the parliament.
Right, he debated this, but
Yes.
not in the parliament because it's not tabled yet.
Oh.
Our president has several TikTok to explain why are we against it. We are glad that at the end of the day, the Barisan Nasional take the same stand and force the bill not to be tabled at the time. But it's coming. I hope government listen to people. You really, you have, if you've been through the whole entire session, you can hear from the experts, the lawyers, the experts, the surveyor, what is going on. And we really do not need a law to divide us further. And one expert pointed out clearly, the bill was selected to the United Nations as a chairman. But what are we doing at the whole ground? We're not showing the example to the world. Right?
I think that's a very good point, huh?
Not sure.
Emphasize it very clearly.
Maybe
maybe on the legal side, maybe one can just elaborate a little bit so that the press can check it out. What laws need to be tightened?
Because what we've been told, the objective of the UIA is not just for demolish and rebuild, redevelopment, it's also to rejuvenate, rehabilitate, reinvigorate. Maknanya buildings which are decrepit, old, then no lifts, no facilities, and all those things. So our viewpoint, especially HBA, we have existing legal framework at the moment to address all those things. We have the Uniform Building Bylaws Act, we have the Strata Management Act, we have the Street Drainage and Buildings Act. Okay, so we can tweak all those in the regulations perhaps, or look back at what is existing, especially the Strata Management Act, to address those loopholes. As our section always says, if there's an issue of being decrepit and ugly or dirty, do we actually need a redevelopment law for that? We don't, right? So if there's no facilities, for example, no lift, no escalator, no elevators, modern technology, I take it, modern development at the moment, we can actually install an elevator there. Do we need to displace existing owners, occupiers? Right? We need to disrupt the infrastructure ecosystem surrounding that area, because you can't just look at the area which is gazetted for redevelopment. You have to look at the surrounding ecosystems, right? Boleh ke ditampung? And if it comes to demolish and rebuild buildings which are condemned, certified as condemned, we do not want it to be certified by somebody who is closely connected to this particular law. We want it to be an independent party, right? So that the outcome is independent, so that it's not just interest of certain parties being protected, but interest of those who are living there, having possession, having ownership, especially owners, property owners are being taken into consideration, right? Because demolish and rebuild is not a simple matter. Maybe I'm naive in thinking that, I don't think so, right? And for that to happen, perhaps acquisition is required, maybe. If acquisition is the only way, we have the Land Acquisition Act. But if it's not, if we can think out of the box, perhaps we can have a cooperative or an SPV where the owners are equally involved, right? Owners and the government are equally involved. It is a matter of funding. Can't we sit down, 21st century, can't we sit down and think of a way to fund the project so that the people who are living there are not living in crumbling buildings, for example? I mean, that's the only thing I can say.
Yeah, we can also have to look at the National Land Code as well, because the National Land Code 1965 laid down some of the process and procedures for land development, like subdivision, amalgamation, and so on. Probably we can short up or speed up all those process, and therefore we need to review and harmonize all those clauses in the National Land Code 1965.
There are a few videos floating around by the month where Ngah takes us to a few sites on that. You see those videos?
Yes.
Sites like Kui Chai Jaya in Kui Chai Lama. It show us abandoned car there. It show us a downpipe that is broken, that is leaking, and a lot of cobwebs around all that. I think you saw those videos there. Those are not dilapidated building. It's just a mentality of the MC to run the place, do it properly. It's a low-cost flat. If the people can't even put food on their table to eat, you think they're going to participate in the forming of MC or participate in a joint management body? No. This kind of stuff should be undertaken by the local council. You charge it over to them, $35 a month. But then local council should undertake this. Now, how to get rid of abandoned car? Tow it away. How to get rid of the downpipe by sewage blocking? Hey, repair it lah. That's all about it, don't they? Then a lot of cobwebs. Hey, somebody got to sweep it. So the problem here is maintenance, civic cultureness, and as well as education. Doesn't mean demolish a building. You understand? If a car breaks down, the piston is spoiled. You mean you damage the whole car and leave the car? No, you change the piston. You get it? So you don't have to demolish something to arrive at this conclusion. You get the same conclusion, get the same results by repairing a damaged car. That's about it, Rania. So why the law? That's why we say the law is flawed. What is the objective? We do not know. But I would like to dwell further on what he says. You can give me 1 minute? He says that RUU pembaruan semula dibentangkan untuk bacaan pertama, and we have got 108, or maybe he has increased it, 128 pelibatan, meaning that he has got 128 sessions to speak to people. Okay? The problem here is that the right question to ask him is, how many objected How many agreed? How many setuju dengan syarat? Nobody asked that question there. You should be expressed. You should be asking him because it gives the notion that everybody agreed. Come on, it's only a session. So to be truthful and sincere, he should be telling the truth. How many setuju? Berapa bilangan tak setuju? Berapa bilangan setuju dengan syarat? And then you get the statistics there. Meaning that this law is going to create a confusion because you just divided us people, owners, into two halves. The one who want to stay, the one who don't want to stay, who wants to sell. That's not a caring government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I also add, taking from what my colleague just mentioned just now, I think these buildings that we look at, actually, to be honest, there should be a building audit done to actually see what the condition is, to be compared with the local building code, the latest building bylaws, to see whether that the building is structurally okay or not okay. So among some of the independent property professionals that we can use are actually the building surveyors from RSM and some other consultants that can be used because we need to do a building audit. That's one. And number two, I think the other issue that we are looking at also is perhaps with regards to the collection of maintenance charge and service charge. I think you don't have money, then it's difficult to look after the building. I think it's difficult to replace the lift, to work on the leakages and all that. So I think you need funds, and I think maybe the mechanism needs to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more effective to make the people, the professional property managers who are managing the asset, to make it maybe perhaps a little bit more simpler for them to collect maintenance charges, and so that they can execute their recommendations and all that. Because I think buildings are old not because they just grow old overnight. It's just lack of maintenance. And like Datuk said, if it's dirty, we clean it up. If the thing is rosak, we just fix it. And we need money. We need money, and it's got to be self-generated because how we calculate the maintenance charge and the service charge is we look at the facilities that the premises provide. We calculate the cost and we divide it by the share value and all that. Then everyone pays the share, and then but there must be a mechanism that allows us to collect those funds because some people just don't pay. The 24 ringgit, the 124 ringgit, they don't pay. You don't pay. It's very hard to do. You can be the best property manager in the world. You don't have money, you can't do nothing. So that's just one thing. So that part needs to be.
Can I just add a bit? What is going on at the moment now, some photos being circulated, bangunan usang and decrepit. Actually, those are not photos of the areas being gazetted. So we have spoken to residents, owners in Taman Sri Indah, for example. The RA, Mohsin, he's a head of the MC.
Chairman of MC.
So he has explained that, and we have seen pictures of Taman Sri Indah, for example. It's not as decrepit as what is being circulated on social media at the moment. So funding could be one of the reasons why funding, especially as my colleague is saying, collection of funding. But taking an analogy from the few days ago, I met this housing community activist from Thailand. And I think that's a very good example, a good place for us to make a comparison rather than going to island countries where land is scarce. Thailand, the land is basically, I think, bigger than Malaysia. So they have managed to redevelop, as I mentioned earlier, for Setinggan. I don't know whether the Setinggan are landowners or they are not landowners, I don't know. But even Setinggan, they actually have a community engagement. So I asked a question, if funding is an issue, because in Thailand, the government is backing it up, the local councils are backing it up. So I asked if that is an issue in terms of government funding, you can't get it, for example. So she said that's where the cooperative of the owners come in, of the people. So when you are empowering the people, the probability of not chipping in, 25, 35 ringgit, 40 ringgit could be lowered because if they are running it themselves, they are being empowered. The trust deficit that exists where we have to pay to an outsider, for example, flats owned by local councils or by the government, maybe the ones who are not paying could be a trust deficit on the owners, or the owners are not there, it's being rented out, and the owners are not paying. So those are things actually we can iron out by other means instead of having this sort of law.
May I add a bit? Actually, most of the cases in terms of urban renewal is centered on the aspect of availability of land, or we call it land matters or land administration. very unfortunate that most of the land administrators in this country, almost 95% of them, they are having no basic education in land matters. They are coming from PTD, Pegawai Takbir Diploma. And some of them are political science, some of them from Ustad, you know. They don't really know about the National Land Code, really. So I'm from Persatuan Tanah. We are recruiting them by offering them professional courses and so on. We are in a process. So I urge we will take this opportunity to professionalize them, so that they will listen to us. There will be more understanding on us, so that we're going to have a safe wavelength, and then the development is going to be speed up easily. Otherwise, we're talking about something else, and they understand something else. Bearing in mind that land matters is very important in the very first place, you know. So if the land is not settled, development cannot come in. So this is what happening in most of the cases, like Sungai Baru, like Kampung Baru, and also they are the one who will make sure, who will filter the compensation amount during the hearing process. So if the hearing process they don't understand, they will say that if you oppose it, then go to the court. Court will take about 6 years, and the price of land is coming up very, very interesting. You know? So this why that is why the people of landowners in Sungai Baru feel very reluctant to participate in the development process. Thank you.
So, can I add one point about the building audit earlier raised by Mr. Lau? Actually, in DBKL, we do have building audit every 10 years. It's mandatory for building. So that means that when we talk about the URA, okay, they are talking about bangunan usang. Our bangunan actually is still, most of our bangunan, I would say, is still intact. The integrity report prepared by the professional engineer, right, is a mandatory requirement every 10 years. So when you read this proposed URA, it says like the inspection is a visual inspection. It's a very, you know, it's a very weak description of the requirement to verify that the building is safe to be kept. So I think on that part, I mean, as an engineer, I know our building can last 70 years, 80 years, even 100 years. The building still can stand, so long as you do the proper maintenance. You have a scheduler maintenance on the building. You have inspection being carried out by qualified people, right? Every 10 years or you know, or 5 years or whatever, it should be fine.
This one comes to my question. Why 30 years? So where is this magic figure at 30 years? This chosen benchmark and trigger point at 30 years is unacceptable. Where did the minister get his 30 years from? Already, minister already acknowledged that the lifespan of a building is 70 years. Why choose 30 years? That's my point there, is it? They have been, the government has been lobbying for the last this lifespan of 30 years. We show a blatant disconnect between its own entrenched policy and the current standard. So that is not acceptable. So we are wondering if you all can pose to the minister, why choose 30 years? Why not 50? Why not 70? That's the issue here. Like I gave an analogy just now when I was talking. The child was just got 30 years old. I sent my son to university. After graduating university, ready into the job market, he can recycle back, meaning that I got to send it back to the mother's womb, you know, to be reborn again. That's the point there. Why the 30 years?
I would like to look into the other dimension that because we'll be focusing more on the hardware of the city, like I said, just buildings, the brick and mortars. What URA is doing here, which worries us at Perekabandar, is we are forgetting about the cultural and social dimension of cities, you know, the soul of the city, which is actually what makes this, gives the character and identity are the people, their lifestyle and tradition. If you just focus on just buildings and so forth, you will probably losing out like I said, the character of city and the sense of place for the future generation to upgrade. For all you know, in the future, you'll never know, what kind of cities do we have in the past? What are the roots that we have? What are the we call it the spirit of place that gives the soul. So that's why we're very concerned about this now. I mean, like I said, software and hardware is very important in the computer. We don't just focus on the hardware, the software that actually drives the place very important, which is the people.
Can I add one more? Menteri ada sebut tentang 581 sites, right? Throughout the country. And he mentioned that tanah-tanah telah diwarta. Dia guna perkataan warta. Saya question, sebab selagi URA ni belum lepas,
setuju.
macam mana negeri nak warta? How come suddenly negeri dah warta? Sebenarnya tapak 500 lebih itu adalah tapak brownfield yang telah dikenal pasti oleh PBT. Dan saya dah go through list of those tapak. Ada yang langsung tak masuk akal untuk buat URA. So what we need to do is to really look into numbers tadi tu. Kalau 580 sites buat URA dan semua negeri buat URA, saya rasa Malaysia ni akan ada masalah sosial, kacau ganggu dan that problem yang besar dari segi aspek sosial. So let's look into a proper site, minimum obstruction to human life. The easiest to do, kan, tak ada obstruction banyak, we go for that. Tak perlu sampai 500. Maybe we can have like 30, enough for the next few years.
And
Supaya
before
cerita lah.
single ownership versus multiple ownership. Single ownership are those building already PPR belong to DBKL, PKL itu teruskanlah. Kerana juga the commercial units are also included, TNB land, public parking area together with this Bank Negara Malaysia. They want to build, but all means because all single owners. Tapi jangan ambil ni law for multiple owner because you bring quarrel to us. You make us quarrel. That's the issue here. Now, on the 534 sites, semasa telah digazet atau belum digazet, but was identified, URA barulah masuk. Dulu tak sebut URA 75% or 80%. Betul tak? That's all right.
Okay.